sure if there was supposed to be an introduction and then we go, but I'll follow
like
your
that.
lead.
So yeah, I started doing this about, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years ago, and how it started was just me doing videos on my iPhone because I was getting frustrated. I like pipelines. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
And I got frustrated because everyone was, when it comes to politics, and we didn't really have a pro-pipeline government in power. And everyone kept saying, oh, screw this, screw those guys. And I'm like, well, maybe, but that's not that productive. And I tried to use support pipelines idea as a way to put a bit more positivity back in the industry that was really struggling. And now, I think I told you, so my first winter in 5 years, I started doing it again a bit more because there's so many people who are out there. They're not working and they're struggling, Sally.
Yeah.
They're super struggling.
Yeah.
So just every time, even for you to come down and sit down and talk to me, I appreciate that because, we do need a few more positive voices in our industry right now. And anytime, everyone's only to use their voice because it can be nervous and stuff. And you in particular caught my attention because of an advertising about women's in trades in the virtual show. And now I'm learning about your glove company and all this kind of stuff. So I guess I don't know how to start. For anyone who doesn't know you, what's your story?
So yeah, my name is Sally Morse, and I grew up in Rocky Mountain House, actually. So grew up in Alberta.
Awesome.
My dad is retired now, but he's was a master electrician. And so kind of grew up in the blue collar family. And when I got to a certain age, and back then you had to apply for your social insurance number and you got it in the mail.
Yeah.
I remember getting it, and I bagged groceries at Co-op. But as soon as I could, I actually every summer went and worked where my dad was at Ram River Gas Plant at the time. And I ran the skid steer all summer for like 3 summers.
Operator. Cool.
Yeah. And even back then, I remember the coveralls, like the crotch was to the knees and the gloves fell off my hands. But I was a teenager and I didn't really think anything of it back then. But I do remember that time there, and I had, Bobcat Sally written on my hard hat. And so I was around other, tradespeople and workers and my dad itself. But I think I always kind of wanted to go into teaching or something like that. So I did kind of pursue the university route. I wanted to actually eventually start a business or something. So I started with a master's, but then started taking psychology classes, and then I switched my major. And so I ended up having a degree in psychology and a minor in business, and went on to my master's, and I was a therapist for youth aged 6 to 17. And I did that in inner city, kind of St. Louis in Missouri, because I was living there at the time.
Okay.
Yep. So I just kind of it was still kind of teaching, because when they're that young, you're kind of that model. So I was kind of still doing what I thought I'd be doing, but in a different kind of way. And then I was in Missouri for about 6 years, and then moved back to Alberta to kind of start a family and settle. And I just decided I wanted to start a company when I was kind of going through a life transition. So I was going to be a single parent, and I was like, what's next for me? And social services and psychology is obviously very important. I loved what I did working with children and youth, but I just needed to kind of have the flexibility in my schedule and economic opportunity to provide now for myself and the 2 girls. And so a really good friend of mine, and this is kind of funny because my whole thing with what I'm doing now, it all came from a pipeline company. So a pipeline company made me do it, kind of thing. So a family friend since I've known since I was 6 years old, who also was, from Rocky Mountain House back in the day, has a pipeline company. Their head office is here in Calgary. And I literally was just sitting at his office, his desk like we are today, and he had a consumable report of about 3 jobs. And they were in the multiple millions of dollars on this pie chart. And so out of curiosity, I just said, like, what do you spend the most on for your consumables? And at the time I was helping doing just some data for like what they ordered the most of and stuff like that. So I kind of have an idea like where they're buying their stuff, but I was just curious of like, where are you going through the most? So he's like, great question. Go ask, Cheryl down the hall. So I went down to a secretary, and she literally on a piece of paper wrote down 10 SKUs, and 6 out of the 10 were work gloves.
Interesting.
And so, because there's so many applications,
For sure.
you go through them so much,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you're wearing a pair a day, and so that sparked the idea of like, okay, I know I want to start a business. Maybe I should pursue this. So my brother just lives outside of Edmonton and Beaumont, and he's an entrepreneur himself. And so I called him up and I said, I think we should start a glove company. And that was back in 2019.
Okay.
And so that's what we did. And that pipeline company was our first customer. And we literally brought in like one order of like 7 styles and 1 size of large men's. And that was our first order.
Awesome.
To kind of like get us going. And then
Can
from
you
there
share
just
the
grew.
pipeline company name?
It was Midwest.
Oh, awesome.
Pipeline.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So Nick Leinster is a very dear family friend.
Awesome.
Like I said, I've known pretty much my whole life. And so he just, so it kind of came from that consumable report and being curious and maybe being naive, but it made me take action and kind of led, where I am today. And now we have, a men's line in multiple sizes now.
Amazing.
And now I'm bringing a whole women's line. We had 2 styles. One is sold out. The other one isn't for sale because I have it kind of for projects and kind of collaborations that I do already, so they're not kind of publicly for sale. And then I have a whole women's line, five gloves coming in the next couple of months. We have one coming right now, that pre-order. But yeah, so that's kind of just
Awesome.
how it progressed, and started, like I said, just being curious, sitting in a pipeline company office and looking at that and being like, I should maybe get into this.
Who saw that coming, eh?
Right, from like a psychology to glove company is kind of a transition.
Oh,
but
funny.
Yeah.
Just deviating for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I know Nick Leinster and my dad, Big Dave, have known each other forever.
Oh,
and a day,
okay.
of course.
Okay.
And they worked together a lot at Colt Engineering.
Yeah, at Colt, yeah.
Way back in the day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, definitely Nick's a fixture in the oil and gas industry,
Yeah.
no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think so tell me about the virtual women's trade show, because that is what got
Yeah.
my attention and why I reached out to you originally.
Yeah, so like when I started with the men's gloves, I was focusing on that, and I was actually at the home hardware store in Airdrie, and I was talking to the owner there because they sell our gloves, and she said, do you have like women's gloves? And I'm like, yeah, I've already brought 2 styles are coming in. And then I just realized, I'm like, yeah, there's not a lot of women's stuff, right? So that like, I need to do this. And then creating women's products, I got to know like other companies that were making products. And so most of them are women, not all, but usually it's a woman that identified either for themselves or their sister or, daughter that things weren't fitting well. And so they created a product. And so, I like 4 years ago, there was a Women in Trades virtual career fair. And so I was like, I'd love to support this. And so I just reached out to the people that were putting it on. And so I said, well, I can do like a giveaway and I'll help, promote or get, women to attend. And who do I know in my network for companies that want to, hire women? And so that happened like 4 years ago. And it came back to like, okay, now my mission is really supporting women in industry. What can I do? So I'm doing it through my products, through alliances that have been made, part of a nonprofit, which I can talk about later. But and just, yes, what can I do to support women in this aligned kind of with that mission? And so now it's the Women in Trades 4, so it's the 4th year.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've had over 3,000 women participate.
Wow.
And the event is free, right? So for companies to create a fully branded booth, they can have like little corporate videos or, some images. And then there's just like slots to have like little 10, 15-minute chats. So on the day, you just like, you book up your chats, and the participants will just upload their resume and
Incredible.
So that full day is just a virtual career fair, free for the companies, and also always free for participants.
No, I appreciate that. So one of the things that caught my attention was I know I don't fully understand all the barriers to entry, but I've talked to enough women about their interest and their to get involved with construction and pipeline
Yep.
and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
But I don't really understand all the barriers to entry. And you, by doing the simple, making it free, making it accessible online where they don't
Yep.
have to go.
Yep.
Like you're basically removing some of those for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think in-person events are important, and it's great for networking. But what I found from like even these past events is, some of these girls are maybe at another job and not even in the trades, but they're just trying to, whatever, a job. And so they can't take the day off and like drive to an event, right? So they're booking their kind of interview little sessions on their coffee breaks and lunch break. So some are like, I can't put on my video because I'm at work right now. So they'll just do an audio meeting.
But I'm hoping even by calling virtual women's in trades, I'm hoping that even will help remove some of the nervousness, or some people are. It is scary and nervous, especially when you're contemplating going into a new industry that's still very much male dominated. So if you can make it as, again, a bit more gentle and approachable as you have, I think it's incredible.
Yeah. So there's like the physical barrier, like and travel or taking the day off, or and even people who are willing to relocate. You could be kind of more isolated in northern Alberta, but you see a great opportunity, south or west. So that reduces that physical barrier. If you're willing to relocate or wouldn't be able to get in with that company otherwise. But you're right. It's, not even just the physical barrier, but just having an event for them where they feel invited and appreciated. And the companies that are participating obviously are looking to, maybe have some women on their team. And so that's positive as well. Kind of get their foot in the door.
For sure.
Yeah.
I know. I've been fortunate enough to sit down at this table with many women who work in pipeline. And one thing that's a theme that's always come up and I was curious about is, women do have that strength, that element of a dynamic that's really supportive in pipeline that we feel has been missing in a few different aspects, primarily related to talking and mental health. And again, you actually studied psychology, so you actually probably understand it better than I do. So I have seen it, experienced it, and felt it, but I can't really articulate it the way someone like you probably can, where the strength lies.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. There's so many barriers, and I think too, it's not only just attracting women, it's retention.
For sure.
And so I think companies need to do a really good job of, and that comes back to PPE. It's like, make sure they're safe, make sure they're wearing the proper attire, and this has kind of been a mission. So I put me and a few other ladies kind of put a program together a couple of years ago. It was an event that I put on through Collective Events at the time, called Future in Trades and Technology. Okay. And so we had like a women's workwear show. I don't like to call them fashion show because it's not fashion, but a workwear show. Okay. And so a lot of the girls there were actually in the trades and did the walkway. And so there's a lot of women's brands for this. And so about, 6 months after that show, some of the other owners of the brands contacted me, and they're like, we should form an alliance. Like, we should really bring these smaller companies together just to make more of an impact of like, the procurement or companies are saying, well, we don't know where to buy this stuff. Well, like, let's reduce that barrier. And so that's where Awesome came from, which is AWSAM, Alliance of Women Safety Apparel Manufacturers. Started with 3 brand companies in Canada, and then the other 8 founders are from the United States. So it doesn't include Mexico, but it's a little bit of a North American alliance of kind of smaller to medium-sized brands. And the whole mission is to, create awareness of the issue of ill-fitting PPE for women.
Like it related to safety?
Yeah, for safety, and just awareness of the brands that are out there. Okay. And then providing access and then advocating for kind of change to make sure that, women are safe and protected and comfortable. And then I think that goes a long way with retention, that if a company actually just takes the extra few minutes to actually, get proper items in for them that fit them, and, maybe they'll be a more valued employee to stay with that
feel
company.
valued, yeah,
or
for
feel
sure.
valued that they at least took the time to do it.
But this is amazing talking to you, Sally, because like I've never done anything but other than pipeline, and it's funny to me that after 30 years or so, I'm hearing about this issue. Like the issue's always been there, by the way.
Yeah, it's always been there.
But the idea, it's getting out into the conversations and getting out there a bit more, and you've found a solution. Maybe there's other solutions out there, I'm sure, just buying small gloves and gear and overalls and stuff and coveys, but to make them more fitted to women, like I just think it's incredible.
Yeah, and there's different, it's just more inclusive, lines, because there's maybe even some men, maybe smaller men that would actually fit better in another version. It's not even like take gender out of it. Just have a broader offering of different sizes and, to fit different body types, essentially.
I can tell you firsthand, even the guy I worked with for years, he was a smaller, stout dude or whatever, pretty small legs, and he literally would just, whenever he bought new Carhartts, he would just take a banana knife to his legs and just cut off those 6 inches out of the spot. So it's good to see there's a better solution.
Yeah. No,
so
absolutely.
is that Alliance, is that the nonprofit you were talking about? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm one of the founders, and then I actually sit on the board currently as well. So I'm the only Canadian member on the board. But Helga Ware and Cover Gals. I don't know if you've heard of Cover Gals out of Ontario, Alicia Woods. No. She was on Dragon's Den, and she has a really cool design of her coveralls, kind of the flap when you go to the bathroom. You don't have to completely undress. So.
I know, amazing.
And her background is more in the mining industry, but she's the other founder and from Awesome. So there's a few Canadians on the
I love that.
Awesome. Yeah.
Again, just so funny talking to you, because all this stuff just seems so obvious when you're explaining it, but where has it been the last 30 or 40 years?
But I think there's positive change there. I think companies are doing a better job. I also do my best to support the whole pipeline, so to speak, of women's PPE and getting that information out. So through like Manpower and Women Building Futures, they do a lot of the training programs. So for some that they've done here at SATE, I literally will go in and do a safety talk before they're done their schooling and going on site. So like head to toe, I'll do a talk with them and tell them, okay, these are your types of hard hats. These are all the brands for women's, for coveralls. Safety vests, what kind of safety vests do you need tearaway, not? Do you know why there's, the stripes? So don't go buy stuff online with the 2 stripes in the back. That's not standard for here. Like, don't go to Amazon for this. So I kind of just head to toe do the whole talk about, pants and gloves and, what the safety ratings on gloves are, and, all the way down to their steel toe boots. So I want to kind of educate and empower the women too that are going into site or on site and into the industry, that if they're given a men's coverall or one size fits all safety vest, they can say, no, actually there's some women's brands now for safety vests or coveralls, and maybe they it could just be they didn't know at that company or their procurement. But, I think women having that knowledge to speak up for themselves and their own safety is important too. So if we can even just kind of do it at that kind of ground level. And then also the companies and CEOs from the culture, and hopefully it kind of trickles up and trickles down. So. But
I think that education is so important because, when people are first starting construction, they talk about it all the time, Like, I wish they didn't even sell work boots at Walmart that weren't green patch.
Right.
Like, that drives me insane.
Yeah.
So you do have people, because I witnessed it with my own eyes, a new guy, a green kid, he just missed that. It seems like a small thing, but he just missed that step, and then he rocked up on site without green patch boots, So Couldn't
Yeah.
go to work, get the new boot, get him going and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But again, that education component is so important. I remember many moons ago, gloves, you just wanted more gloves, so you go to the warehouse and get some new ones. And that, we've tried to get away from that. And a lot of it is, one, it's wasteful.
Yeah.
But one of it is cost. These gloves no longer, they're not $5, $6, $7,
No.
$8 anymore.
No.
They're between 20 and 30 bucks or
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
each.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to describe people, hey guys, this is affects all of our bottom line. So if we're going to keep winning work, like this stuff matters, and now we get people new gloves, so we get them to write their name on and just try to get them little clips, little swag clips to keep track of them.
Yeah, I should have brought you a clip. We
Yeah.
do the clips too.
Yeah, just to try
So you don't
to
like set them down and
set
walk
them down,
away and then you're
lose
like, where's
them,
my
and
gloves?
just whatever. Again, it's the cost thing. Because I do remember when we first started buying gloves, again, I'm going back, 30 years, and they were $5, $6, $7, $8. And nowadays,
But then the standards and safety has really increased too. Like I know you can't probably go on site without a cut 5 impact too, right?
We're cut 5s for
Yeah, it's
everything
cut
now.
5, yeah.
And so, again, the sheer cost, so even when we put in one of our bids on a job that we just finished,
Yeah.
again, we had to go back to the client and go, okay, just for clarity, we didn't have the cut 5 that you're asking us for now because it wasn't a requirement of bid.
Right.
And the delta was like in excess of $10 per pair.
Yeah.
So bless them. They helped us
Yeah.
out. They took care of us, so there's
Yeah.
no problem.
Yeah.
But that is the expectation moving forward. And it's a great expectation because they're great gloves, they're usable, awesome.
Yeah.
But holy,
Yeah.
again, I think they're $25 would
Yeah.
we paid a pair.
Yeah. So is your background all in pipeline? Like, do we have a little bit of time? I would love to hear about your backstory as
I'm
well.
just a kid. I just grew up into it because my family's always done it.
Here in Alberta, or
I'm from Ontario, but a
originally?
pipeline kid. So I was born in Ottawa, moved to Thunder Bay, Yellowknife,
Yep.
Kamloops, Sarnia, and now we end up in Calgary.
okay,
But I think it started same as everyone else. Your dad gets you a job as a laborer
yeah,
when you've helped pay for school and all this kind of stuff. And I think my older brother Gunnar, he started when he was 17 as a night watchman on a job in Ontario and kept doing it. I was probably about a year later, same thing as a laborer out on a job in Ontario with Bannister, and then I ended up with Midwest, believe it or not.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and that was my first job in Bonneville in 1996 in the
Yeah.
winter.
Okay.
So cold.
Yeah, it's
and
cold up
then,
there.
my sister, she worked in the office
Yeah.
for Marine on a job in Ottawa, and she stopped and had a family and never went back to it. And my younger brother Kenny, same thing, just pipeliner, went as labor and just started bouncing around, same as all of us. So we all stuck with it. And I always wanted to be a teacher. So
Okay.
same thing, I started off in university going to school to be a teacher. So I ended up, when I wasn't going to school, I would do pipeline.
Okay.
And so that's why I was able to squish a 4-year degree into about 7 years by the
Yeah.
time I got through it. And
Yeah.
at the end of it, I ended up switching and going into environmental sciences. And so I graduated in 2001. And back in those days, the environment, it was there. But, sometimes on these jobs, we, as the contractor, would share an environment with the owner. Like it just, we didn't all each have our own counterparts. And,
Right.
so the money really wasn't there, and I knew a bunch of pipeliners, environmental guys. I talked to people, and again, I remember talking to a good friend of mine. I said, "Yeah, we can definitely take you." I think salary was 28 to 40 grand a year, and I'm like, man, like I've been married for 2 years already. I got a wife, I got a house, I got a truck. Like so I went back pipelining. And I've never stopped. And I love it, Sally.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Do you know some people will go their whole life and never get a chance to work pipeline? God, it just breaks your heart when you think about it. And so here I am. I'm still doing it. I'm very fortunate. Sweet Marie does it in the background. And she was out in the field last summer up in Prince George. And I got, a couple boys did it. My middle kid's doing it for the second year.
Okay.
My eldest kid's been at it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just a family tradition. I love it, and I'm very grateful. And I talked to my mom. I said, the kids are going out pipelining, and she always says, I always hoped you kids would never do it, because you're away from home. And she doesn't really talk about the safety or the risk side. It's more just being away from home and the lifestyle and the gypsy, and it's tough on families. And But she says, I can see you kids are good kids, and you have good kids, and you've made a wonderful life for yourself, and I just
Provide so many
for
opportunities.
sure.
Yeah.
And I just fell in love with the community, Sally, and of which both you and I are very much a part of, and I've got LinkedIn this past few years. I signed up for LinkedIn, and then I was like, oh, this is incredible, and I've met lots of people, and I feel very lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know. All the people, even now, the people I look up to are old pipeliners. So you said Nick Lenstra, Big Dave, Joe Cerny, like Mike Wagner, like all these, Jim Dixon. Like I could just rattle all these old boy names. Yeah. And at some point, a lot of them don't. Not working for money to pay bills or whatever. They're working because they just love the community and the chaos and the mentoring and the shenanigans and the laughs and the stories. And if I'm lucky, maybe one day I'll get to be an old pipeliner. So maybe we'll see. We will see.
No, that's so interesting, and I think we should be very proud of our energy sector, and I think it does get a bit of a bad rap, and I think we set those standards for the whole world really about our clean energy, and it's something we should be proud of.
For sure.
100%.
And I try to be, I don't, probably as a younger guy, I would engage in a lot more of those conversations where people were just kind of shitting all over our industry. And I've stepped back for that, not because, I'm not educated or I'm not comfortable having those conversations. I'm more, I've learned I can't convince people. Like some people have their minds made up. We're the bad guys. So I'm more, I'm very proud of the Canadian pipeliners, the Americans, the Europeans. They have great health and wellness, environmental standards, certainly social values that we all share, which matters to me. Yeah. And if you want to chase away a job out of Canada and chase that money, capital projects, whatever, over to these different areas in the world that don't share these same values, then I can't convince you otherwise. So it's tough, and it does bother me, but I try to advocate for us Canadians here, and obviously my American friends and family, and now I've been involved with a European company for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and I can see their values are the same as mine. And so again, I'm first to speak up for those guys as well.
Absolutely. No, I think there's a lot of innovation here too. There's right ways and wrong ways of doing anything, and I think there's always room for improvement, a better way to do things, but on the whole, I think we do a very, very good job.
You said it. We're getting better. We're getting better.
Yeah, like just capturing emissions or reducing, emissions, things like that. There's always things that we can do. But it's funny. So my boyfriend now is a pipe fitter by trade, pipeline guy.
Lucky.
Yeah. And it's so funny because he was on the Trans Mountain pipeline project, and he called me at his lunch break one day, and he's like, I'm just kind of waiting for these environmental people to come in. I think there were some students at the university or whatever. They were literally relocating frogs.
Yes, 100%.
And I was like blown away. I'm like, what do you mean they're moving frogs? They're moving frogs. He's like, I'm in my truck and I'm waiting for these frogs to be moved before we can continue with the pipeline.
For sure, but nobody, and that's the
and
stuff.
I was like,
that's the stuff
do
we
people
don't get.
know this?
They don't, and I'm telling you.
Or if there's a nest,
we move it, or if the birds nesting on the right of way, we work around it and come back to it. So that's the kind of thing I don't think we get credit for. Yeah. And again, if I talk to, it's not even the environmental people in our projects, because we have some and the clients have some, of course. But if you talk to any of those foremen, any of the dirt foremen, any of the access foremen, those people and the workers, they know the rules, the regulations. Like they know it better almost than anyone. They know what the setbacks, the riparian zones are. They know everything. It's remarkable to be around these people. So it's not. They just adopt it the same way. In the old days, you give people shit for not wearing their safety glasses hard. Those days are over. Yeah. This is so part of
this is next level.
Exactly, and they just do it naturally, and that's stuff that I don't think we get credit for. I know when Big Dave, he was helping on something on the Trans Mountain job as well. He was down last summer as a construction manager on an Enbridge project, and he was talking to some of the locals, and they could see it because it was so near the Trans-Canada. And beautiful. It looked like landscaping, some of these crossings. It looks incredible. Like, I'm so proud of these guys. And I remember the guy said, "Oh well, is that when you guys are back and it does look the same?" Dave's like, "Yes." There's no different expectation because it's by the road
Yeah.
versus it's in the mountains.
Yeah.
Like this is the expectation we work to.
Yeah. You know what else I
period.
really love too? Is the company's commitment to the communities.
For sure. Oh, 100%.
And it's so funny because I'm sure you can talk very much to this, but if a pipeline's coming through and it's a smaller community, the first reaction is always like, well, we don't want these guys here. We don't want, all this. And then they're there and then they just support the community and they infuse, money into projects and getting things in that community, supporting, buying from the locals. And by the time that job is wrapped up, those community people are like, oh, we don't want you to go.
I know.
Thank you so much for supporting and just, economically and just socially things that they support in the community. And it's funny, it's because it's kind of happening now in northern BC where it's like, just give them time and they'll understand. Like, there's going to be no, vacancy. There's money going through that community. They're buying local, for the project as much as they possibly can. It's such a boost. And just giving back to all the community.
And these people take pride in those workers.
Yeah.
So even I was up in Chetwynd area for about 5 years, and we're giving away money to different. We did the Meals on Wheels for the old people every week.
Yeah.
And we dropped the meals off. We would do hockey teams, ballet teams, all these different local groups. And every time we go drop the checks off to the old folks home or whatever we would do and take a picture and. I always try to encourage the people. Yes, for sure, these are from the owner in part, depending on what it is. If you donate money to the rec center, the new rec center, from the company, great, sounds good. But when we do these other initiatives, the money where we drop off all these things, I'm like, I always try to tell people, please understand, this is our company logo on this, but this money comes from the people.
Yeah.
Those guys working on the right-of-way, this is 50-50 draws.
Yeah.
This is returning the bottles.
Yeah.
This is all these things.
Yeah.
So those workers, that's where this money's coming from. Because I want people to understand.
Yeah.
It's not some nameless, faceless company that slaps logo, oh yeah, here's your 20 grand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from people
in
the foreman shack who do the ridiculous card draws in the morning. And the 50, that's where this money comes from.
That's
and just
hilarious.
trying to educate
Because you guys
people.
bet on everything.
Oh, it's ridiculous. But the funny thing is, and I want people to understand, that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
It comes from the hands, the
It
guys,
does.
the
Yeah.
women.
The workers.
The workers, that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah. And talking about like working away and being kind of hard, this is my first time like being in a relationship with someone who works away, right? He's right now two weeks away, 1 week back, flying in and out from northern BC. It's Ferris Murphy, actually.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Is out in Cedar Link? Or do you know where he's Kitimat or Hudson's Hope?
Hudson Hope.
Okay,
Hudson
I
Hope
know.
area.
I know the project, but I'll talk to you later.
Okay, I'll talk to you later about that. But I think it's like almost like you're in the military and you're being deployed.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, because you're away from your family. And it's so interesting. And for me, with my psychology background, I recognize the transition period of when he comes home, which is actually tonight. He needs that 24, 48 hours
for sure.
to come off the mindset of the job, get a haircut, maybe go to the dentist, get your oil changed, take care of the yard. Like, he's got his to-do list so he can relax.
And just take a day just to decompress and sit still.
So I know, like, I'm not going to see you till Thursday because I know you need time to, like, transition back into home. And then, we'll spend some time together. And then again, the day before he leaves, that's that other transition time. So now he's in the mindset of, okay, now I'm getting ready for work and got to pack and make sure I'm taking care of everything so I can leave for another 2 weeks. And so there is that transition. I think, if you're in a relationship with someone from the pipeline, it's just recognizing that they need that time coming in and out, kind of more in their mind, because their kind of mind is already kind of going on to back to work, or their mind is trying to transition back into coming home.
I thank you so much for sharing that, because it is really hard on relationships, and if you don't really know about it or accustomed to it, and you have a bit more background in it, It's tough.
Yeah.
Plain and simple,
Yeah.
and I always encourage people, whether it's for a turnaround rotation job, that first day and the last day, I don't want to say they're a write-off, but they're different.
Yeah,
They're like
they're
transition
different.
days.
Yeah.
So you don't really get the
They don't
benefit of
count.
both. They don't count, yeah. But it's hard. Like, I don't know what the statistics are for, the industry is devastating on relationships
Yes.
anyway, but
Yeah.
for this kind of work, man, it's brutal. So the rotation that you're describing is better.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the long pipelines still work a lot of 6 and 1s.
They do,
And
yeah.
it's tough. So you have people, best case scenario is they'll come home on a long weekend. Worst case scenario is they don't.
Yeah.
And I don't know. We always talk about the challenges in the industry, and that's
Yeah.
one of them that definitely and dearly needs to get solved.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, it's nice to have the technology. At least you can have the FaceTime, like, FaceTime at night, or at least have that, contact point,
For
at least
sure.
once a day, especially if you have young families and things like that, because you miss birthdays and you miss, recitals, and that's kind of part of the job
part
and
of it,
work.
yeah.
But hopefully technology helps people stay a little bit more connected now than maybe back in the day. But I recognize that it's hard work. It's hard work when you're there, and it's hard work to work on relationships and keep them intact. So.
Yeah, especially while you're trying to build that relationship, for sure. I remember as a kid, my mom would line us up every Sunday.
Yeah.
Because that was the days of long distance, and we'd line up on Sunday and just, hi, Dad, how are you doing? Yeah, I love you.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I'm doing good at school. Yeah, okay, bye.
Yeah.
Then-
Yeah, when they're little.
But even, I gotta say, when we started up in CGL in 2019, this is how technology has changed, and so for the benefit, we went from repeater station on the right of way to like Zolio and InReach program messaging programs for
Yeah.
emergencies to Starlinks.
Yeah.
And Starlink is basically full access. We're in the bush.
Yeah.
It's like you're talking to your cell phone, talking, texting.
Yeah.
So a lot of when people are out in the camp in the middle of the bush, it was really tough on people, and some people end up leaving.
Yeah.
And because they just couldn't, once you leave that camp in the morning when there's right away till you got back to the end of the day,
Yeah.
you almost couldn't talk to your spouse. It was
Yeah.
wild. So a lot of those bridges have been gapped
Yeah.
with technology, thankfully.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not feeling so isolated.
Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah.
So with an industry that struggles, not just pipeline, but
Yeah.
construction in general,
Yeah.
with some mental health challenges,
Yeah.
like it's such an obvious no-brainer.
Yeah.
And thank God some of these.
Well, I got to
to
mention a program. It actually started in BC, on the island, I believe. But it's for the trades, but it was more geared towards the construction industry. Because there's such and the trades and pipelining too, such an increase in just addiction and mental health issues and things like that. So they came up with a program. It's called Tailgate Toolkit.
Okay.
Tailgate Toolkit.
Okay.
But yeah, it's through the Calgary Construction Association.
Okay.
And someone will actually do tailgate talks and come in and talk to companies all about mental health and all the tools, and having, those resources for the companies for free. They'll just go in there and help support companies with mental health. And that kind of stem from the construction industry, but, kind of for all the industry. So if any company or individual is interested in that program, just go to the Calgary Construction Association
Thank you.
website, and the Tailgate Toolkit is there, and that's
No.
for mental health for
I've
men.
never heard of that, but I
Yeah.
definitely will check it out. We talk about this a lot in our industry because the statistics are so off the charts for the construction
Yeah.
industry with
Yeah.
men taking their lives.
Yeah.
And what we're
Yeah.
what we're struggling with, or what we're finding is, again, so we did meetings all last summer at camp with people,
Yeah.
guys and women. It was confidential, a little private group, and it kind of grew throughout the summer, which is great.
Yeah.
And when I always share, like, there's all these resources, 1-800 numbers, not just for depression or anxiety. It's for spousal support, physical stuff, financial planning, all these different resources.
Yeah.
And what the feedback I got from multiple people was, they were more comfortable sitting in a private room, even exchanging some tears with other pipeliners than phoning a 1-800 number. And what
Yeah.
they said was, so they're okay with confidentiality, but the person who picks up that phone, one, if I have to phone that line more than once, are they going to be the same person?
Right.
Which is part of the problem. And for two, they're not a pipeliner, so who gives a shit?
Yeah.
They don't even understand what we're talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
So there's still a disconnect, but the industry as a whole is, again, moving in,
Yeah.
I think, a good direction.
Well, I think even like with this program, it's not so much a number to call, but it's like training. And I think it goes back to relationships and knowing your crew, right? So if you can recognize patterns, or you'll know that guy's a little off today, right? And just kind of watching and
like that.
recognizing like what's their baseline. Right, and then you'll like get to know your guys, right, and girls that are on your crew, and then create that baseline. And then I think as a supervisor or whatever, you can kind of maybe keep tabs on. They're a little off today. Maybe I need to go talk to them.
In private, put your arm around them.
Right, right. So I think even this program is good for the tools of maybe management or supervisors or someone just to like, what are you looking for? What can you do to kind of nip it in the bud or recognize early on that they're starting to kind of get off path of kind of where they need to be. And maybe could have been just a crappy phone call the night before from family, you don't know. But I think the relationships and recognizing what their baseline is, and then you can know when things are off, and then kind of reaching out like you said. And another thing I learned too in psychology, because I was a lot with youth. This is a very mental health session we're talking about now. But with teenagers, they don't like to be spoken to face to face. And so I think this might be good on site too, is like hop in the truck. Let's go for a walk. And it's that side by side conversation.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
You're not going to have like, hey, sit down in my office and let's have a chat. It's like, no, hop in the truck. We're going to go
for a rip.
Go for a rip.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
With kids and teenagers, the car rides are the best time, to have a conversation with them because it's not so in their face. And so I learned that too, that it's, hop in the truck, let's go for a walk. And that side by side conversation isn't so like in your face.
No, I might take that one away, because that's definitely a different strategy. Because we do talk, we do our morning forum and meeting and introduce the tailgates before the guys go with their own people and do their tailgates.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the mental health topic is coming up more commonly in the tailgates, and we've done some coaching even in the morning meetings where we say, guys, you can't understand why a guy's off, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
Because these guys know each other so well. So sometimes that means, even if it's once a week or every 2 weeks, make sure you get each person alone for a moment.
Yep.
Put your arm around them, just do a check-in, and because you don't know. And it's important because what we're finding from all these conversations is even if someone's having a tough day or they're not okay, they're hesitant to share, because what they said in some of these meetings was, one, they don't want to feel they can't be relied on. They don't want to let the team down. These crews are close. They've worked together for years, some of them.
Yeah.
And the other one is they're always afraid to make things weird.
Right.
With the people who matter most to them, and it's again, these
appearing
dynamics.
weak, right? It's the whole am I appearing weak.
And it's, again, how do you fix these things, Sally? I don't know.
Yeah.
But like even you being here today and introducing this topic and talking about it, I think that helps us, move the ball forward into making these conversations hopefully more comfortable and more normal, I guess.
Yeah.
In some
I think
ways.
just normalizing it too, where they feel safe enough to like bring something up and not feel shamed for it or made fun of for maybe bringing something up.
But even someone like you who does have an educational background, once we promote people to either say a straw or a foreman or something like that, you don't automatically adopt these leadership and communication, the ability to talk critically and have these hard conversations with people. That doesn't naturally come with a bump, and so some of these do need to be taught. And some people take on these the learnings, education on their own, but we as an industry, we do start to do a bit more training now at that straw level and how to have critical conversations. And
that's great.
Heaven forbid if you need to talk to a regulator or someone, this is how you do it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm always kind of interested to know when you say people are out of work. I know that projects fluctuate and they stop and start. I think that's one of the challenges too, like in the industry and trades. There's not always consistent work throughout the year. So like how do we better solve that problem?
It's I mean, the problems, I don't want to call it a problem. This is how our industry works, especially in Canada, where we deal with seasons. So not all different areas, including some areas in southern BC and definitely in the U.S., southern U.S., they don't have the same seasonal components to the construction. So it is different.
Right.
For us, in the last 10 years, we've introduced so many new people to the pipeline construction industry. We've literally created, I don't know, tens of thousands of pipeliners that didn't exist before to accommodate all these projects.
Right.
Because, everyone talks about Coastal GasLink, the NGTL loops, the Trans Mountain Pipeline, which in and themselves have absorbed huge, the LNG Canada project. So we've created people that have a high income potential. They've found a community of people that they like. And all of a sudden, so because we've created them over a 5, 6, 7 year period to develop all these projects, now all of a sudden they're on the street going, okay, well, I'm a pipeliner now and I need my life is set up for this. I like it, whether it's financially or well, they don't have the network that you and I have developed over the years. They only know they just keep showing up, they got a job, and all of a sudden that's not there. So perhaps they've never networking, relationship building. They've only worked with one company.
Right.
So they don't have that same. So what I've tried to do with LinkedIn is try to bridge the gap between the field and the offices, the old operators and contract, and try to build this community, try to connect people, and just say, I know you've never worked before, but these ebbs and flows are very, very common. You just need to get through it, and it's especially hard for young families. So they're not in a position to go 3, 4, 5 months.
Without
they can't do it. They got wife, the kids, they're getting going in life. They just can't do it. So I always encourage people, hey, find a foxhole to hide in. All of your skills, within reason, they're transferable, believe it or not. If you're an operator, right now in Alberta, the residential and commercial construction industry is blowing up. You can get a seat somewhere. You know what? Guess what? It won't pay the same as pipeline. And it will have different training and skill sets a little bit. But if you want to be a pipeliner, this is part of it. Is being able to just manage it. At some point, and this is a terrible silver lining because they can't see it, but at some point when you've done this very unconventional career for a while, what you'll find is you can bridge these gaps. And because you don't, where's my next job? Well, you don't know where it is, but guess what? The phone is going to ring in 6 weeks, believe it or not. It always does.
It always does.
So you just need to be able to become comfortable with that. And if you have a spouse at home that is new to the industry, and they're looking at their husband going, okay, well, and you, hey, it's coming.
And we got bills to pay.
So I would say there's a seasonal component. Winter's tough, so our winter construction season. So when I started pipelining, I would say 30 years ago, 1995 or whatever, the winters were longer. So we got out January, get moving, and we pipeline until kind of mid, potentially end of April. Well, man, we need to be buttoning up into March sometime nowadays, depending on what you are. So that's a challenge
there.
Too.
Maybe a challenge. But again, I think that you said it's like you kind of have to plan that this is the industry. It ebbs and flows. It's seasonal. And so, don't be expecting to work every day. That you have to plan for those breaks. But I love how you've built your LinkedIn community and sharing your knowledge and, these jobs are coming up and everything like that. And maybe, like you said, just educating people of maybe go take some courses.
For sure.
Take some skill building and something else. So when you do get that next job, you're upped your level of, different safety things or leadership course or whatever, would maybe help you on that next kind of job, right? So just don't sit home and do nothing. Maybe there's courses or something you can do, or identifying what your transferable skills are to then, do something for the next whatever, 4 or 5 months until that phone call comes,
then you can
they're
decide.
Ready to onboard you, right? So I just, maybe it's that the education part too of just the industry. I don't know.
I would say for sure. Again, if you're talking to people who are new to the industry, they need to hear these kind of things. you get so focused on a paycheck and, making a certain amount of money. That's
Yeah.
what your expectations are.
Then
and
you buy the
that's-
boat and you buy the quads,
Exactly,
and then you're
that's-
like out at work for a few months, and
Exactly.
you're like, ah.
So the breakups, people think a breakup is a seasonal thing. Well, it's more than that. It's a seasonal wait until the frost comes out and environmentally we can go back to work. But now
Yeah.
there's, with different rules, now there's bird windows and
Yeah.
caribou windows that
Yeah.
we can't work it. So there's
Yeah.
a lot more moving
Salmon
parts.
runs.
Exactly. So there's a lot more moving parts. But yeah, I always encourage people, build your network.
Yeah.
Get educated. There's
Yeah.
definitely, it's tough. This is not a conventional career.
You should almost do a post of like things to do while you wait for the phone to ring, right?
Oh,
Just like,
for sure.
Like, fill your time with productive things that will
Because
help
people
you level
do,
up.
They
Yeah.
do need to hear this, because otherwise we just sit at home and, that end of the month, whew,
Yeah.
it's coming.
Well, and then it makes you antsy, when you're out of work, you're like, I'm better when I'm working, right? So then,
Oh, for sure. I think we all are.
it's not a healthy place to be sitting
Oh, man.
too long, right? Rumination happens.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to a few people in private, and they said, hey, man, appreciate you sharing all those jobs
Yeah.
and stuff. I'm like, if I hadn't been that young guy
Yeah.
who didn't have a job
Yeah.
and was not okay, because
Yeah.
guess what? Yeah, guess what? I did get married pretty young, and guess what?
Yeah.
We had kids, and
Yeah.
and people made time for me and took me for coffee
Yeah.
and made some connections for me. And if I didn't have such a positive experience, people helping me, maybe I wouldn't be so quick to try to put up my hand to try to help.
But now you're that mentor.
Oh, I'm that guy.
Now you're that guy.
Yeah. Oh, you're not working. That sucks, right? Yeah, I know that feeling. It's awful. Yeah.
Well,
Let me see what
you're
I can do.
relatable.
Yeah.
You can totally relate to where they are and help them, and that's awesome that you do that. That you're paying it forward.
Oh,
right?
like I said,
of the help and mentorship you received.
If
when you were
I close my eyes,
a
I can
young guy.
remember that feeling, Sally. And it's tough, man. It is tough when the bills aren't getting paid, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you don't want to phone your mom and dad again for some help, but you're gonna. You just tough.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it is tough.
Yeah.
Because there's the whole talk of like, the trades and shortage of workers in the trades, and I'm always like, well, it just really depends what trade, number one,
For sure.
in what industry. And it's a kind of booming here and maybe a little bit less over here, and so there's that kind of transition and back and forth. But yeah, I just wanted to. I wanted to talk about this really cool thing that happened, like supporting shop class. I think that's one thing that has kind of not really gone away, but the funding hasn't really, I don't think, been there in supporting the shop teachers. And so I support 3 high school shop classes in Calgary.
Awesome.
And on a very small scale, it was at Crescent Heights High School here in Calgary. And because I give them PPE, gloves and things. And so they said, yeah, is there any way someone from the trades could come in and just like talk to the students and talk about their career path and what that looks like? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, we would like to give little Hot Wheel cars to our graduates as a graduation gift. Do you think
I like
they
that.
would donate that? I'm like, yeah, I'll ask. So I reached out to my friends at SurePoint, and the 2 guys showed up and did their presentation on a PowerPoint and how they went from kind of blue collar to white collar, and of course the questions are like, how much do you make, right? And so, I'm not, this is the university path or this is the trades path, and you can get to work as you go to school, and this is how much debt you'll have after university, and this is how much non-debt you'll have after you get your journeyman ticket. And so it was so engaging, and the students loved it, and the shop teachers were like, this is amazing. And they got their Hot Wheel cars and gave them as little giveaways to the students when they graduated
That's so
from
cool.
that program. And I was like, we should do something like this on a larger scale.
For sure.
So the last year, in collaboration with the Calgary Board of Education and the Calgary Construction Association, came up with a program, and it's called Adopt-a-Shop.
So cool.
And it launches on the same day as the Women in Trades Floor event. May 28th is going to be a busy day.
Okay.
So on May 28th, there's going to be a full press release at Central Memorial High School. And literally and we're talking about, relationship building, is connecting industry to shop class. And So a company organization would adopt one shop class. It could be a welding class, an automotive, construction and trades type of classroom, and they would donate that, adopt that class. So there'd be a tax receipt you get back for your donation, just to kind of help the shop teachers maybe buy a few items or some tools or upgrade software, whatever it is for the classroom. But it's just more than that. They want the industry person to come in, talk to the kids, answer their questions, talk about their journey and their career path of the trades.
So much.
Yeah, and it's like for the whole year. So it's a pilot project. So there's Crescent Heights High School, Jack James, Bowness High School, and Central Memorial. Those are the 4 high schools, and then there's 2 middle schools that just have the construction and trades. So we're just doing it with a pilot project right now. But companies and industry and associations have they're like, yeah, we're on board. We love this. That we can kind of impact that next generation and just show them another career path that maybe they had questions about and maybe aren't getting from their guidance counselor, or their parents have never been in the trades or pipeline industry, so they don't know options.
Or they don't have anyone to ask.
They don't have anyone to ask. So I'm really proud of this program. And so it sits on the Calgary Construction Association website. They've done a grant. They've put a lot of work themselves in getting this program up and running. So so for the last year, just been sitting in meetings, and it's finally come to fruition.
Oh my God, this is so cool.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So May 28th is the official launch. But I Catholic School Board is already, we want to do it next year. So, and maybe you'll just go from Calgary out. It's it's just a program that was created, and it can be run by other cities and provinces. If they want any information about the program, they can reach out to me.
But again, you describe it seems so obvious what you're talking about, right? And and industry, I could see them wanting to get involved.
Yeah.
Because they're the people who are going to be the beneficiaries of investing in these young people.
Yeah.
I had this young kid on LinkedIn, Nathan Martin was his name. He phoned a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And he phoned and he said, "Hey, I'm just trying to figure out what are some courses and stuff to go on to the energy?" I was like, so I didn't really understand the context. I said, well, here's my phone number. Phone me tomorrow, and we'll talk about it. So we had a great conversation on the phone, and when I hung up and I talked to Sweet Marie, I said, this kid phoned me, and I said, I never would have had the courage to phone a random stranger to ask about courses. So I talked about Nate and Sate. Like, I'm a huge trade school guy because I went to U of C. I don't know why. I didn't belong. I shouldn't have, but I did.
Yeah.
I watched my son go through Sate in a program he did there after his 2-year program.
Yeah.
I'm such an enormous admirer of the program, the structure, the courses, the way they work these kids, the way they help them find work, the way they invite industry into the job fairs, into each class. Like, I can't speak highly enough. So this Nathan, I said, you're in Edmonton. Nate has so many. Get online, look at all the programs, find something that catches your attention. Because if you're interested and like it, chances are you'll stick with it. And I guarantee you, there will be a job. Like, the job placement's so high, and you'll like it. There's a different way. And it won't hurt you.
Yeah. So I kind of building that relationship with the kids, because they can, when they do talks and they're in that classroom, and what's great too is they can even do field trips, right? So if it's a fab shop or whatever, or automotive or whatever, they can do a field trip and have the kids, there and hands-on, see what a shop looks like, and if that's the industry they want to go into, that they have a better idea of that. And so if they're just opening up the options of what you want to do after high school. So
oh my God, I love it so much.
I had to talk about that program too, because that's happening this month in May. But it will start in September, but we're launching it this month.
But if you could just keep doing what you're doing, sharing all this stuff, and it'll get passed along.
No, there's so many great things happening to support trades and industry at all level. Yeah, honestly, I could talk forever on all the cool things that are happening in our province.
Well, why don't you just commit to coming back, and we'll sit down and do another talk another day? How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
So before we part ways, any type of words of encouragement to anyone out there who isn't working or struggling or not doing well?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the eventium.ca website. That's where they host the virtual career fairs,
Okay.
which is always free for companies to set up a fully branded booth and have those one-on-one chats. And they're all throughout the year. So we did a natural resources and energy one in the fall, and Canadian educators one in the spring. The women in trades is always around this time every year. So always kind of look there, upload your resume if you're a job seeker, kind of get into their pipeline and look for events and companies that are just going to be hiring on their 365 version. Yeah, I would say get on LinkedIn. The power of LinkedIn is amazing.
Agreed.
Like that's how I came across you
Yeah.
and you across me. It's like, and we're here like sitting in Calgary in the same city. So I've met amazing people on LinkedIn. So for job seekers, create a LinkedIn profile if you haven't already.
It's one of the top job boards now.
Yeah. And just comment. Align with people, follow people, see what's out there, and like I said, learn some skills if you're sitting at home. Look at your transferable skills and keep your chin up. And you said the phone rings, your next opportunity. I'm a big believer in just not even fate, but if you didn't get a job, it wasn't meant for you. Something better is coming up, and I think we got to recognize there's always cycles. And as an entrepreneur, when you have those times where it's like this really sucks, you always get through it because okay, there's something really great coming up, right? Because life is not straight up and it's not straight down. It's like this in everything we do. So just for job seekers, if you're down this, it's like the up is coming. Just be excited for the next step.
It's all part of your story. That's what I say. You look back on it and laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice to meet you, and I'll look forward to next time.
Nice to meet you too.